Good evening to you all. It really gives me great pleasure to share my joy, actually, much more than sharing either my information or knowledge. It truly is, it's a wonderful last couple of days sharing my joy with you all. So today we actually come to the crux of this entire 3-day sharing on mindful living. So if I have to ask you a rhetoric question, of course, why are we here? We know we have talked about this. We are here to understand ourselves, to understand how our brain works, to understand how our mind works, and to understand and train our minds to improve the quality of our life. And why? Why do we have to train our mind? I always like this statement. It says, in every matter, mind only matters. And this is why we need to train our minds, as they say in our scriptures, that sarvam manai eva. Everything is about the mind. So we have set to learn how to train our minds through mindfulness. Mindfulness these days, a common term is also meditation. Some people say mindfulness meditation, or meditation, you can call that as mindfulness in a broadest manner. If we look at mindfulness as a meditative process, we have come up with a definition of mindfulness, or any other form of meditation for that matter. This definition truly helps us to figure out ourselves whether whatever type of meditation that we're doing, is it working for us? Or the mindfulness breathing, mindfulness walking, mindfulness eating, whatever we are doing, is it really working for us? Just with this definition, we'll be able to tell, which is meditation is nothing but a conscious process. Conscious process, and that is fully directed by ourselves, fully self-directed. And why is this a conscious process and self-directed process? This is a process to overcome our mental automatism. We have understood that most of the times we are on the autopilot mode. And not only that, most of our biases are habitual. So meditation or mindfulness is nothing but a way to come out of our mental automatism. And that can only happen in the now. And not only it can happen in the now, it also helps us to be in the now. So the means and the end, they're both the same. With this definition, we get a very good clarity about whichever type of meditation technique or tool that we are using for ourselves. And we have heard that we can be mindful at any time of the day, and whatever we are doing, we can be mindful. And not only that, when we are mindful, either sitting and then meditating mindfulness, or mindful breathing, whichever way you're doing, we know it reduces stress, it brings higher awareness, and many more things. We have heard about it a lot. As somebody said, the very first day, mindfulness technique is very simple to understand, but very difficult to practice. And we're going to know why. Why is it difficult to practice? Again, I keep saying, until and unless we go deeper into why, we will not be able to sustain any practice for that matter. That why is extremely important. And that why, when we look at it from a scientific angle, will be common for everybody. This is the beauty of it and the power of science, that it is common for everybody. Why is it difficult to practice? The reason is we usually use initially our willpower to do any type of mind training, be it made through mindfulness, be it made through any type of meditation, or whichever way we're going to train our mind. Initially, we use willpower, and many a times we keep using only the willpower. We know it is going to be difficult, because if we rely only on the willpower, yes, initially it has to be started off with willpower, but yet to sustain it and to make it as a regular practice, we need to know how mindfulness or any meditation works. And even more important than how, why we need to be doing this. Even this knowledge is extremely important. How it works and why it works. We have already gone into why it does not work so well. So now we're going to know how it works and why we need to be doing this mind training. So why do we need to do mind training? I have listed a few of them. We've gone over this earlier, and it can be many more reasons why you want to do the mind training, or you want to be mindful. For many other reasons, or all of it for that matter. But ultimately, it has to be to enjoy our lives more to the fullest extent, and to have a zest for life. And not only that, it should also be associated with utilizing our innate potential that within us to the fullest extent possible. So what I'm going to request you all, whatever the reason may be, whether one or many, keep this in the back of your mind while we go through the rest of the discussion, so that it will help you to ask certain specific questions depending on why you want to do mind training on yourself, why you want to use this mindfulness technique at this time in your life. Because our goals have to be very clear. If our goal is vague, the results will also be vague. And if the goals are not clear, it is really hard to keep up with it. And it is really hard to have a sustained practice. So keep one or any or whatever you have in your mind and go through the rest of the talk. Again, mindfulness is simple to understand, but difficult to practice. Why? Because we are hardwired into believing certain things. And until and unless we believe in certain other things to such a great level, it is going to be really hard to practice day in and day out. In other words, we will see what I mean by this hardwiring. Hardwiring, as I said, is another name for our habits. Habits get hardwired into the deeper structures of the brain. And because of this, we are at the mercy of our old habits. And we are at the mercy of our old ways of thinking. We are at the mercy of our old ways of feeling. And we are at the mercy of our old ways of saying things, reacting to certain things. And we are at the mercy of our old ways of doing things. And to start something new, or to get rid of the older habits and to start something using a tool as mindfulness, this is why it becomes hard. And it also depends on our belief system. Until and unless we believe in this mindfulness beyond any doubt, there cannot be any intellectual doubt on this matter. We will not be able to have a sustained practice. And what I'm saying is not just for mindfulness practice. And of course, this is true for anything else. So once in a while, we need to keep revisiting our belief systems to see whether our belief system is empowering or not. Some belief systems may be true, but is it empowering? Or is it limiting me to where I want to be, to where I want to go, to be someplace where I want to be at this stage in my life? How are my belief systems working? Is it working for me or against me? So we need to revisit our belief system and hold on to the belief systems that are empowering. So again, mindfulness is simple to understand, but difficult to practice. Again, why, you might ask? We will try going into many different ways so that we will know it is so easy to intellectually understand. And then you will tell yourself and me at the end. Hopefully, this is what my hopes and wishes are for you all. In the end of another 30 minutes or so, we will say, yes, it is easy to understand, and hopefully, whether it is easy or not, that we are convinced that it is the way to go. And so before I go into actually what mindfulness is and looking at mindfulness from different angles, this is the time, if you have any questions, either you can put it in the chat box or raise your hand, and feel free to ask any questions before I go into different ways of defining mindfulness.
No questions.
Okay,
Usha.
sure, great. So we will go ahead. So we are set to try and lead a mindful way of life, mindful living. For that, we know we need to train our minds. And we're going to see how Mindfulness is a tool. We know that it's a rewiring tool of the brain to change our old unwanted habits and to form new, better habits. We can use mindfulness as a tool. And we're going to try and see, yes, let us begin using this as a tool. Can we make it as a way of life? Keeping this in mind, I have brought in many ways of looking mindfulness itself by giving many different explanations to this technique or tool of mindfulness so that it will help us to implement in our day-to-day lives. So the first way of looking at mindfulness, we have all heard this definition. I think it is John Kabat-Zinn who gave this definition, saying that it's a particular way of looking at the present moment or looking at the present experience on a moment-to-moment basis in a non-judgmental way. Let us look at this definition a little bit deeper, but in a very simpler manner. Even though this definition is easy, for me, everything is about implementation. How can I make anything really simple so that we'll be able to implement in our daily lives? So with this definition, all we need to remember are just three things. To be in the present moment, here and now and here. And to be highly focused, paying attention and focused in a particular way. What is that particular way? By being non-judgmental, not evaluating on anything, not analyzing anything, but being non-judgmental. Let's go a little bit deeper and take an example, and then we'll be able to understand this aspect of mindfulness using this definition. We know when we are doing something, our body will be present right there. But how about our mind? Is our mind along with our body? Or is our mind, we know how fast the mind can go anywhere, right? So is our mind somewhere else in another planet, another time? Or is both body and mind present at the same time in the same place while we are doing something? Extremely important. Why does that breath become so important in any type of breathing technique, any type of meditation technique, and especially so in mindfulness? Mindfulness is all about that breathing technique. Is our breath is the bridge between our body and mind. Whenever, let us take an example, we are in a meeting at work. Yes, of course, the body is very much present in that meeting room, but our mind is, my goodness, it's almost 10 minutes to 5. When is this meeting going to be over? I have to pick up my 8-year-old son from the babysitter. The body is there in the meeting room, but the mind is elsewhere. This is extremely common. It happens for everybody many times during the day. Then what do? First, our awareness. We need to be aware that the mind is elsewhere. That's why I keep saying that self-awareness is the most important quality for a human being. This is what differentiates human beings from the rest of the animals. So once we become aware, then what do? we need to be kind to ourselves, not judge ourselves. Oh my goodness, how could I miss that point, whatever it was happening? Rather than being unkind to ourselves and judging ourselves in a kind manner, in a loving manner, in a calm manner, we need to bring our focus. That is, all we need to do is to focus on the breath. And as soon as we focus on our breath, the mind and body are together in the same place at the same time. This is the secret. So for this to happen, we need to be practicing mindful breathing on a regular in a regular way over a period of time, so that we can make use of that awareness of our mind going away and to bring our focus back through the breath back to the body. That is how we bring our mind back to the body, because breath is actually the bridge between our body and mind. This we can easily do only when we practice other times. And it is so simple. I will give another example of how being non-judgmental is extremely important. I will take the example of a student. A student, while studying, says, oh, focusing on whatever she is reading, highly focused, but yet judging the subject. I'm so glad I don't have to study math after this year. I'm going to take up a totally different topic and subjects altogether, theme, so that I don't need to worry about mathematics anymore. That is judging. Even though the student is paying attention, focusing, but still judging. This is where we tell the educators, wherever I go, whichever educational institution, and to the parents, keep using the term be mindful rather than focus or concentrate, because focusing and concentration still falls short of being mindful. We can still be judging and be focusing and be concentrated upon something. So when we are mindful, we are highly focused and we are in the present moment, both body and mind together in the same place at the same time, and we are non-judgmental. Extremely important for us to remember. This is the classic definition of mindfulness, nothing new here. And now let us look at the second way of looking at mindfulness. You know, we keep doing the same thing, but we expect different results. Many a times, for many of us, this happens. Keep using the same technique, keep doing the same thing, same old way of doing, same old way of thinking, same old way of feeling towards somebody or something, but we expect different results. I think it's, if I'm correct, it's Albert Einstein who said, if you keep doing the same thing and expect different results, and that is what's called insanity, you know. But it is so common. All of us do this. So how can we change this? Sometimes it becomes impossible to do some things differently. When we cannot change the circumstances, when we cannot change the people that we have to live with, and of course we cannot, we know that by now, that it is impossible to change anybody, but yet we need to be living with them, or either at home or with colleagues, and still be able to enjoy our time and still not be affected with the way they are. For example, what somebody asked yesterday, being with a person or surrounded by people who are negative, how do we keep ourselves positive? The way to do it is, when we cannot change the external circumstances, then we need to look at the way, change the way we are looking at it. I will take some examples for this and then see if it makes sense. Classic example, right? Depending on which angle we are looking at, they are both correct. And the classic thing of looking at 6 or 9 from two different angles either looks as 6 or looks as 9. The same way, is this a duck or is it a rabbit? Of course, if you look at it one way, it's a duck. If you look at it the other way, it looks like a rabbit. So in a situation, bring about anything, an interpersonal relationship issue, either with the spouse or with a colleague or with our children, we look at it as, this is my way and this is your way. Keeping this in mind, can we somehow try and make it is my way and your way? Some of the things it is not possible. Many of it is possible. We would not have thought about it this way. Not only that, and we can actually make it with proper communication, with proper understanding, we can make it, rather than my way or your way, we can also make it our way. For this, what we need to keep remembering for us to be mindful is that if we change the way we look at things, the things we look at will change. The Wayne Dyer is the most recent one who has said this, but even before that, the quantum physicist, I'm trying to remember his name. I'll get it. I will let you know. He was talking about this. If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. When he was also looking at the double slit experiment in quantum physics. Anyway, going further, it doesn't have to be two ways, and many a times it's never two ways. However, we are so used to look at the worldview as binary format, but the reality is there are many, many choices, just like in this picture that we see, there are many things that are happening in the picture. And so can we make a shift in the way we are looking at it? Can we start seeing things differently as it is happening? Extremely important. This is where we need to train ourselves. As it is happening, can we start seeing things in many different ways? I'll tell you how tough this is. Many a times, especially with interpersonal relationships, especially with our loved ones, it is really tough to see things in somebody else's way as it is happening. We will see it later on when we are much calmer. But as it is happening, can we train ourselves? But what I have seen, again, with lot of experience and practice and helping out many people, what we actually see is, it is really tough to see things as it is happening. Once the conversation is done, once that, whatever that circumstance, we come out of that situation, we will see it in a different way. That is the way it is. Even for that, it takes a lot of effort and lot of practice. But even when we see it that way, it is our ego that prevents us to come out and say, yes, I could see it your way. Can we practice? Even if we don't see things differently as it is happening, soon after it happens, when we actually see it, can we actually admit it? That is the beginning. And then we will be able to see things as it is happening. Again, I stress this point very much because in a relationship with colleagues, with friends, it is much easier to do this. Only with our loved ones, with our children, and with our spouses, this is the most difficult aspect. But once we start practicing, it becomes easier and easier. And again, how do we know whether it is happening or not? As we practice mindful breathing, even that we need to know and understand. We will get to that in a little while. How do we know that things are changing, things are happening? So again, looking at change your perspective, say a way of, we need to practice through mindfulness as though we are seeing any situation or circumstance, or even people for that matter, as though we are seeing it for the very first time. This is the most difficult way of looking at mindfulness, mind you. But with practice, it is possible. On a side note and on a funny note, if we can practice this, how wonderful life would be. It does not matter how old a friendship is. It does not matter how old a relationship is between spouses. As if you can practice seeing that person as though you're seeing him or her for the very first time. Just imagine. And then, even though it is tough, it would be definitely worthwhile to put a lot of effort into that. And another statement, which is really profound, because see, the first time we make it is a mistake. I always say, we make mistakes because we don't know it is a mistake. But sometimes we keep making the same mistakes. Even though we know it is a mistake, we keep doing that. It's only because it has become a habit. I always say we need to keep making mistakes. We are humans, not need to. It happens automatically, not that we need to make mistakes. We need to give ourselves permission when we try newer things. Yes, mistakes happen and we are human. If we are afraid of making mistakes, we will never we will never be able to learn newer things in a joyous manner. So we need to keep making newer and newer mistakes so that we can learn newer and newer things. I always say to others, if we keep making the same mistake again and again and again, which happens, which we see it all the time, whether at home or at work, we are never ever learning from those mistakes, and it has become a habit. So, third way of looking at mindfulness. This is a little bit even more involved. Even in this third way, there are 3 different definitions that I have given. Let us go over each one of these in little bit more detail. The first way is it's a way of seeing life itself as a unified whole, rather than looking life from a reductionist perspective. The second way is there is no divide between things that we have to do and that we want to do. And how do we do that? And also, mindfulness is a way of seeing and facing the reality as it is, not the way we want the reality to be, but looking at reality as it is. It is so profound. We will look at each one, take a few minutes for each one and see. Seeing life as a unified whole in a holistic manner, rather than looking at in a compartmentalized way. For this, what comes to mind is this age-old story wherein each one is true. Each blind person, when he's explaining the elephant is like this, like that, each one is true, but it is not the entire truth. Because we know, as Aristotle has said long time back, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So can we start seeing life as a unified whole rather than compartmentalizing? At times I understand we need to compartmentalize. Knowing fully well and in a conscious manner, if we compartmentalize and then take care of it, because that is where we'll be extremely efficient. I understand that. But many other things, what truly makes sense for us, what is truly important for our well-being, for our happiness, can we start looking life as a unified whole? This is where what we talked about, the different parts of the brain, different types of mind will come into picture, and saying, yes, we are feeling beings that think once in a while. Yes, that is true. But we need to know when we need to think first, feel later. And what time do we need to think first and feel later? That distinction has to be there, because we are both thinking beings and feeling beings. We cannot forget that. So the second aspect is no divide between what we have to do and what we want to do. This is one of our favorites, because we all want to be doing certain things, but we know we have to do certain other things, and we think there is no choice for us. And that is why we keep putting off either exercising or cooking every day, or doing certain chores, or at work documentation at workplace, because we would rather be doing something else. So we have a clear divide between what we want to do and what we have to be doing. Mindfulness helps us to get rid of that divide between what we have to do and what we want to do. Because when we are at this, when we have to do, and when we have separate things of wanting to do and having to do certain things, and if we are not even forced, if certain things come on our platter and then we have to do, and then we keep saying, what, do we have to be doing that? That is the first thing that comes to our mind. But once through mindfulness, we figure out a way to break that barrier and to get rid of that divide between have to do and want to do. From asking what, we will be asking, oh, so what? If that has to be done, I will do it. Or asking me? Why should I be the one to do? Or why me did this happen? Then we will start saying, why not me? So what? And that again, that have to do, want to do divide will go away, and we will just do it. Very easy for us to understand through that Nike commercial. Yes, this is where whatever has to be done, can we just do it rather than putting too much feelings or emotions or analyzing or judging? If we don't have any um, choice, at times we will not have choice, and whatever that has to be done at that particular time, can we just do it, and do it with the right frame of mind, without judging, without feeling negative about it. So the third aspect of this third way of looking at mindfulness is, it's a way of facing the reality. What do I mean by that? We don't realize our thoughts represent our reality. Sometimes it's not even our thoughts, it is our feelings that represent our reality. We think about certain things or certain people in a certain way, and that becomes reality to us. The same way we feel even before we meet that person, even before we take up any job or any project, we would feel in a certain way, and that represents our reality. That is when we need to remember, my thoughts are only my thoughts, and my feelings are only my feelings. And here is the culprit, because it is my thoughts, my feelings, we get attached. Many a times we focus on being attached to people and try to learn how to be detached. First, we need to detach ourselves from our disempowering thoughts, from our limiting feelings. Then we can focus on others, because we need to remember two important neuroscience concepts, saying that not all thoughts are true, but because these are our thoughts, we hold on to our thoughts. We hold on to our belief system. What is a belief system? We think something over and over and over again, we start believing it, and it becomes a belief system. So we need to question our thoughts, because not all thoughts are true, and especially the automatic negative thoughts, the ants, most of them are false. That's a saving grace for us, that most of the ants are false. Not only that, feelings are feelings. Feelings are not facts. We need to remember this, because there are no right or wrong with feelings. But the feelings would have come from a thought. So we need to question the thoughts. We cannot question the feelings, but we need to question the thoughts that resulted in those feelings. That relationship we don't understand. We hold on to our feelings when we know feelings are no right or wrong with feelings. And I feel this way, I cannot help it. You feel that way, I feel this way. Because there is no right or wrong feelings, especially with our loved ones. We go on parallel tracks. because we base everything on the feelings. This is where we need to question the feelings, where they are coming from. And with all of this, yes, my thoughts and feelings represent my reality, but they're only my thoughts and my own feelings. And we need to question our thoughts and feelings and see if they are true or not. And then we need to decide whether to act upon our thoughts and feelings. And we have a choice. We have an option to act on our thoughts. We have an option to act on our feelings. We don't need to act out each and every feeling. We don't need to put all our thoughts into action. We don't need to put all our feelings into action. We need to question them and use our discrimination power to sort out and to select the ones that are empowering, the ones that brings harmony amongst people. This is where the discrimination power, which is again one of the most important powers or qualities of our conscious mind, and the one quality, another quality that distinguishes us humans from the rest of the animal kingdom. So just this part to sum up, emotions are not facts. Emotions and feelings are not facts. And the painful emotions arise from our beliefs rather than from our reality. Can we start questioning our beliefs and change first at our belief system? This is what is very important. Many a times we change our thoughts, but we would not have changed our belief system. Until and unless we change our belief system, nothing else matters. And it is our distorted perception of the reality that hurts us much more than the reality itself. We don't realize this. We look at the reality the way we want it, or we look at the reality the way we are. We need to practice looking at the reality as it is. And this is where mindfulness plays a huge role, to look at the reality as it is, not the way we want it or not the way we are, but to look at the reality as it is. Not only that, we need to remember our mind takes on the quality that it dwells on. This is where I started off with the biases that we all have. Until and unless we are aware of our own biases and then change our biases, or not changing our biases from one bias to another, but to correct our biases. And most of the times those biases are automatic. We don't even have to put any effort, which also means the mind is dwelling more and more on the biases, because the mind most of the times is on the autopilot mode. We need to watch out with this statement. Mind takes on the quality that it dwells on. What is it that we are putting our mind onto? Because of the biases that we have, the first and foremost that comes out of the biases is, the result of the biases is fear and anxiety. And especially times like this, when the whole world is going through such a chaos, first thing that happens because of our innate biases is our anxiety, we become anxious, and we become fearful. And as I say, fear is the mother of all negative emotions. And only through knowledge can we come out of fear and nothing else. So mindfulness truly helps to radically transform our emotions. So that is how mindfulness helps us to accept the reality as it is, not the way we want it to be. So to sum up, we have looked at mindfulness in 3 different ways. If we need to make mindfulness from a tool to a way of life, these tips help us a lot after having gone through um, all the 3 ways of looking at mindfulness. The very first one is to understand the connection between our mind, body, and behavior, and to be practicing, focusing on our breath pattern or our breath, which helps us to bring us back into the present moment. And that single pointedness, one pointedness helps there to be focused in a particular way. And the other aspect is that we have a clear divide between have to do and what we want to do. And to break that divide, mindfulness helps. So to keep remembering to just do it. And lastly, to accept the reality as it is, which means we need to start practicing seeing the reality as it is before we can actually accept the reality as it is. These steps should help us to look at mindfulness rather than just as a tool to a way of life. We can easily see that mindfulness is not just a tool and a technique that we use sitting in one place at the same time, cross-legged, eyes closed, and then focusing on our breath. Yes, that helps. Now we know whatever we are doing, we can be mindful about what. If we are cutting vegetables, we need to be cutting vegetables. If we are documenting some mundane things at work, to be documenting only that highly focused way. This is where anything and everything we do can help us, or mindfulness can help us to be doing anything and everything that we do, so that it becomes a way of life itself. So what are the tangible measures? If we are being mindful, what are the tangible measures? I've listed a whole lot of it, and all of it will be able to figure it out. How we have better control over our emotions, decreased rumination, repetitive thoughts, better self-awareness and increased self-awareness, improved working memory and less negative emotions, more positive emotions, reduced anxiety and depression, and more flexible thinking rather than becoming cognitively inflexible. We become more flexible in our thought patterns, more focused, more productive, and decreased negative reactivity. All of that by being mindful. One of the words, if we can just say to being mindful, is whatever is happening. If we just witness whatever is happening without taking part in it in an active manner, is what helps us. This is the ultimate of detached detachment or detached attachment. Just detachment is not of a high order. It has to be detached attachment. So with this, how do we know what are the yardsticks that we know whatever mindful breathing meditation that we are doing is working? All we need to remember is this FIR. I learned when I went to India that FIR stands for First Investigative Report, I believe. Anybody puts a complaint with the police department, they give an FIR. So whenever I said this, or the first time I said FIR, it's so easy for Indians to remember because they talk about FIR very frequently. Anyway, FIR, it's an acronym, as you know, stands for F for frequency, I for intensity, R for recovery time. Just to give an example, if you're using mindfulness to manage our emotions, take anger for example. Our frequency of angry bouts or the angry episodes, has it decreased? Has it decreased? The number of times that I getting angry, has that decreased in a week or in a day? And the intensity of anger, has that decreased? And even more important than these two are which is recovery time. Even if the frequency has not reduced, even if the intensity has not reduced, am I able to recover from it really, really quickly? That is if you ask me, the gold standard is that R, recovery time. If R has increased, the recovery time is much, much quicker. We will see that the intensity would have decreased and the frequency will decrease. So the other yardsticks is that we know our own biases, our own negative thought patterns, our own negative feelings. So we become more and more self-aware. And we move from a reactive mode to a proactive mode. And our mental automatism, the usual way of making decisions in a very quick manner without thinking too much, without deliberating on the process, we make certain decisions really quickly. When we come out of that, and so we're able to make deliberate, conscious, willful ways of making decisions. And definitely there will be a shift in the worldview, not seeing the world from a binary perspective, but recognizing that there are many, many possibilities, not just two possibilities. These are many of the yardsticks, including the most popular one. There is so much research that has happened in all of this, especially this is where our suffering ends. When I say suffering, it's suffering from a scientific manner. So how do we practice this mindfulness? They say you have to have a beginner's mind. A beginner's mind is a beautiful phrase, because whenever we have an expert mind, that means things are set on stone. I am an expert, so this is the way it is supposed to be, as opposed to developing a beginner's mind wherein you're constantly learning new things and in a joyous manner, just like a kid loves to learn, no matter what age. Once we develop a beginner's mind, we can be childlike. And the way to develop beginner's mind is to practice really, really simply, all in your need to do is to give yourself a minimum of 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes every day. Sit at the same place, same time, preferably every day, because the law of association works, same time, same place every day. And all you need to do is to watch your breath and watch your thoughts. The thoughts come and go. Don't react to the thoughts. And to be witnessing the thoughts, what we need to do is to first focus on our breath. When we keep focusing on our breath, that is where even if the thoughts come, they go by themselves. Just keep witnessing the thoughts without reacting to them. It is very simple, not just to understand, even doing is really, really simple. The practicing is simple. That is why many a times we don't do it. And as I've said, I think we have some audio links that have been sent, and I'm going to request Ramaa later on to share that audio link of few of the meditation techniques that we have done through YogaKshema that will help you. So mind training is again all about our freedom. What freedom? Freedom from the mental automatism. Going back to our definition, YogaKshema's definition of meditation. It's a conscious, self-directed process to come out of mental automatism. And it's also freedom from the senses. Many a times we are looking freedom for the senses to have an understanding and to train ourselves to come out of the freedom from the senses. And not only that, I said, keep certain thing in mind when I showed you the slide. Why do we need to do mind training? It could be for focusing. It could be to be happier, to improve our interpersonal relationships, whatever you have thought of. This mind training, all of this mindfulness we have talked about, again, keep that in the back of your mind. But I will add some more to this, which is going to be common for all of us. Again, this is about science being common for all of us. Because as much as we're using mind training for any one of those, ultimately mind training, either through mindfulness or any other technique, is for us to evolve as better human beings. So mind training for whatever you have thought of, plus some more, which I'm going to be sharing with you all, which is all you need to remember is we are the thinkers of our thoughts. Keeping this in mind, just remember this. We are the thinkers of our thoughts. And peace is just one thought away. Because as we said, everything begins from a single thought. Peace is just one thought away. Kindness is just one thought away. Compassion is just one thought away. Empathy is just one thought away. Love is just one thought away. And we are only one thought away from whatever we are looking for. Whichever feeling it may be, we are just one thought away from a good feeling, from a good deed. Just one thought away from something is not going to be enough, but the choice is ours to make. We need to choose that one thought away from any one of this rather than something else. When that choice is ours, we are one thought away, and just being one thought away is not enough. And I'm just going to conclude with this, saying that mind training through mindfulness begins from a single thought, but it has to end with action. Because until and unless our thoughts and feelings end with action, long lasting changes in the brain through rewiring cannot happen. And all of that neuroplasticity changes happens only in the now. I think if we can just remember, for everything, we are only one thought away. Let that be a conscious thought to begin with. That is what we need to train, so that later it becomes an automatic one. But it has to end with action. Thank you. Thank you, Ramaa, for this opportunity to be sharing my joy with you all.
Oh my gosh, Usha. I mean, it was just so profound. Um, all that I can say is there's so much to take from all this. And I think if you were to share what the slides that you had today, especially, I would just keep it around my room where I'm constantly looking at it, and a constant reminder is something that we need till all that you said becomes a habit, basically. But it is just amazing, and thank you so much for sharing all that with us. I know we have questions, so we'll go. Bindu?
And also, before taking the question, Ramaga, I want to put contact information for a few seconds, because many people were asking many of the questions, and especially I remember one of them with the consciousness. I purposely didn't touch upon it because consciousness in science is very different, and consciousness according to our scriptures is going to be very different, and that's going to be a separate topic in itself, and a theme in itself, which again I'm very passionate about. But if anybody is going to be interested in taking this further, either many other scientific topics or
and is so enlightening for me. I just had a one simple question, ma'am. That is that self-evaluation is self-introspection?
No, at that time, introspection happens later.
Okay.
As it has happening, we are evaluating or judging. Whenever we judge, especially as it is happening, we will have limited facts. So we jump into conclusions. And on top of that, we have a biased mind.
Okay.
When is this helpful? When we have trained our minds, leaders, and even us as parents or friends, we have to make decisions right away. We have to evaluate, we have to judge in a proper way. We do this all the time. But what I'm saying, in many other times, when we make certain decisions as it is happening and judging the situation, we do not have complete facts.
Okay.
On top of that, our biases, if we are not even aware of our biases, And when it is, which means it's an untrained mind. For me, an untrained mind is a mind with biases, that's all.
Okay.
And we are not even aware of our biases. That is the sad part. That is when we shouldn't be judging and evaluating. That is not self-evaluation there when I said.
Okay. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Self-evaluation, Geeta, is very important. This is what I would call reflection.
Yeah. Okay.
Very important, very profound, because reflection is one of the steps in Jnana Yoga in our scriptures, right? Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam. Mananam is reflection. Extremely important aspect. Thanks for clarification. I'll be more careful in using the term self-evaluation, not self-evaluation.
Okay, I'm eagerly awaiting about this. You told about Viveka Chudamani and that science, this one, no? I'm very much interested to listen to your your lecture about that, because I'm very much interested in Viveka Chudamani and not I'm very little, I'm saying not little knowledge also, only some amount, some this one. So just I wanted, after hearing your this one, the comparison you took, no? So I just wanted to hear from you the more of spirituality and this Viveka Chudamani.
Certainly.
Thank you so much.
You can get in touch either with Rama or Indira. I had left the phone numbers for a long time. You probably have it down now. One of them, because that would be confluence of science and spirituality. I take a different angle. Yes, absolutely. Please contact them, and then we can try and make it happen, Geeta.
Thank you so much. I'm very fortunate to have this your connection from Bangalore. I got it, some friend Shamala. So I'm very grateful for you, her, and grateful for you also. I'm very much happy to listen to this.
Thank you, Geeta.
Thank you.
And also Viveka Chudamani, for daily living, it's supposed to happen for one whole week as a saptaha in India, in Baroda.
Okay.
In a Ramakrishna ashram in Baroda. So wherein we're going to try and see how to implement the Advaitic concepts and neuroscience concepts based on Viveka Chudamani essence. So
okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Sure, Geeta. Thank you.
Also would like to thank Rama for putting this together. So thanks for taking the initiative on that, Rama.
Thanks, Bindu. Thank you all for joining. So Usha, just to tell you, a lot of people here, at least who have joined, are really all my good friends from, like when you said company is important, it was for me when you were asking about whether it is the life destination or the journey, I was about to say company, and you because if you want to look at it from a third perspective, I think that is, and I'm very fortunate that I have a lot of people on my life's journey, like I can say, the company that I have who push me to so many different heights, each one in a very different way.
Yes.
But I think that is super important in everything, whether we are just talking about a travel or whether in life, right? Very important.
Absolutely. Yes, we all have to be grateful for this.
Yeah. Yeah, I have all my childhood friends and my college friends, my love friends here, my sister, everyone. So, it's wonderful that everybody joined, and it's great. So I think I just ask you the same thing. I'm going to ask if I can get some slides of yours. So I need to print that out for myself, my brain. Look, it's just amazing. Thank you. Anybody else?